episode of the Top Producers Nation podcast. This, of course, is the podcast that is made for agents all over the country who desire to be top producers, and we're here to help you achieve that goal in your desired market. We, of course, are powered on the local level by our Tampa Bay Real Producers franchise here in the Tampa Bay market, where we work with the top 500 producing agents in the Tampa Bay market and have many of them, of course, on this show. But we also are supported by our preferred partners here in the Tampa Bay market, and we bring our preferred partners on the show as well as part of our partner series. And today we get to bring on one of those partners. That's Mr. Trevor Collinson with Casker Creative. Trevor's been a partner now with Real Producers, I want to say about a year and a half. Does that sound about right to you? Yeah. Trevor, good to have you on the show, man.
Thank you.
How are you?
Great. I couldn't be better. Everything
looking good with the pink coat on. And you always got the right coats, man. Every time I see it.
And do you know where this came from?
I don't.
This came from another one of our partners with Real Producers.
Is that right?
Margot.
Was it a gift from Margot?
It was a gift, the gift of wisdom from Margot.
One thing she has a lot of is wisdom.
Yes. So like one of my very first Real Producers meetings, like the second time I went there, I was feeling great. I was like in my just like a flowery shirt with pants, and I was just feeling great. And she's like, "You really need to start dressing a little nicer." I'm like,
in the way only Margot can.
Only like mini Margot, like a little Spitfire Margot. She just she laid it on me. I was like, you know what? You're absolutely right.
That's awesome.
And it's funny because I consider
she's just trying to help, man, trying to help the business grow.
She is, and
first impressions matter.
They do. They matter so much. And also, here's a hot tip for anybody out there who might be like an introvert like myself, because I'm a creative and I don't like to be out there talking to people and starting conversations. So if you dress like this, the conversations will start themselves.
There you go. That's a good point. Mm-hmm. And you have done well with the coat game. I've seen you now at multiple panels wearing good coats, so that's good to hear. So we're going to talk a little bit first about your background for people who might not know the story at all. So I know you said you grew up in Kansas, right?
Yep.
What brought you to Tampa?
My dad lost his job.
Okay.
Back in the day, he was working for radio stations. And so he found a new position with a little known company called Home Shopping Network.
Sure.
And so we moved down here when I was about 11. This was in the 90s. I don't remember what year offhand, but we moved down here, and he's been with Home Shopping Network ever since. And honestly, even still to this day, considering what is happening with Home Shopping Network, he's still with them.
He's still with them,
because his skill set is so niche that he's basically irreplaceable.
What does he do for them?
Broadcast engineer.
Okay.
Chief broadcast engineer. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So when you came down here, you were a kid, and so you somewhat grew up here. Went to high school down here. It sounds like.
Yep.
And then, what did you do after school? What was your focus?
So my focus was art because I didn't know what I was doing. So I knew that I liked drawing and I knew that I liked art things. And so I basically went to college with this abstract idea of doing art.
Okay.
And that's not a major. So
what was your major?
I found out that the best route to go would be graphic design.
Okay.
So I went to school for graphic design, got my degree back in 2006 from John Brown University. And then I started the whole thing. I started off in print because I was just like, oh, I'm a designer. I design things and send them to print. And, back in the day, it was okay to do that. But as I'm sitting there working and as I'm seeing the world around me changing, more and more web focused, I'm like, this whole print thing might be a little short-sighted.
Who were you working for at the time?
Image Media, which is a company. I think they're still active, maybe under a different name. They've grown a lot over the years.
They were 100% print focused?
Yes. Yeah. Their big thing was creating databases for these mailers to go out to specific audiences. So they were like
creating flyers and
whatnot, postcards,
campaigns.
A lot of direct mail campaigns for a lot of real estate agents. So just getting an understanding of how to dilute a message down to its core essentials was always really a good part of that job. Dealing with sending high quality stuff to print, making it look good and clean so that you can get that message across. It was all part of that. Yeah. So
I love that.
A good way to start.
One of the things that we're working on right now is we're building a community called Top Producers Nation. It's an online community. It's designed to reach agents nationally. And we're really building it around 4 principles. But the first principle is about clarifying your USP, right? And understanding the power behind that. Because one of the patterns I've seen with a lot of the top agents that I've gotten to know now over the years is they might not even consciously be able to communicate it, but they all have a specific USP that they have found a niche in to be successful. Right?
Yeah.
Whether that's a demographic or just a way they do business or a certain, strategy that they implement, but they all found a way to kind of make their way, right? Their path.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like in many ways, like that's kind of what you were helping people accomplish, even if all the way back with the direct mail campaigns.
Yeah.
Creating and crafting that messaging.
Right.
That's so important to distinguish yourself in this space when, let's be honest, there's so many real estate agents out there who just have licenses and claim to be an agent.
Right.
So what makes you different, right? And you have to be thinking that way. And so working with somebody that can help you in that path.
Exactly. So I'll add to that though, because back then I was not helping people to the fullest. I was accepting what they wanted. And then I would say, here's
an order taker.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So like, here's your design. Here's your order, sir. Here's what you requested. And they say, okay, fine. So, but back then I also wasn't branding brained, which I very much am now.
Yeah.
So it's like exactly what you were talking about, that the USP. It's like, so what are we doing here? Are you looking like every other real estate agent I'm working with? And 99.9% of them, yes.
Yep. No, totally. And I found the same patterns. I mean, obviously with what I do, I'm with that community a ton.
Yep.
And I started to really identify certain patterns that a lot of the top people were able to find. And so we're building out these principles and frameworks so that we can kind of help agents achieve them on a more national scale. I'm pretty excited about it for sure. We'll talk more about that, no doubt.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting.
So at some point you decided to start your own company, right? With Casker.
Yep.
Tell us a story about that. When did that happen?
Okay, so I floated around doing different things. Like I said, I started to learn web development. I became like a coder. I worked in WordPress, build my own themes, like all the ups and downs of web development.
All the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff, but all the necessary stuff, like if you're going to be capable in what you're doing.
Totally.
So great skill set there. I've always been a photographer ever since college. I learned in the dark room, like proper. I'm a proper artist, everybody. Okay. So that was just always a part of my skill set. And that always came in handy when I started working with all these realtors. Is like everybody needs shots for their houses and stuff like that.
Sure.
So I just kind of naturally floated into it. Photography was there, web design was there, print design was there, the graphic design foundation. And then I started learning more and more about branding as I went along with it. And I started adding more skill sets like video and motion design and getting more familiar with SEO over the years. So I started collecting all of these, luckily, complementary skill sets that were all orbiting this notion of like, it finally came to a point where I had a bad boss. I'm not going to name who. I had a bad boss that really put me in this mindset of I'm never going to work for anybody else for the rest of my life. And I have all these skill sets and I have all these standards for what makes a good product, what helps people communicate. I'm going to start my own agency.
Yeah.
And so I named it after my kids.
Oh, is that what it is?
It's named after my kids. So my thought process here was, first of all, I wanted a name that was new, not just like top tier marketing solutions or whatever. I wanted a net new term, even though there's a couple Caskers out there, but whatever. And I also named it after my kids. So my youngest is Casimir. That's where the CAS comes from. Yeah. And my oldest name
like
is
the sweater? Casimir?
Well, Casimir.
Casimir with a Z.
Casimir.
Got it.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard that name before. Have you, Rob? That's unique.
It's a unique one. It's a family name.
That's a branded person right there. You know, that's branding even kids' names.
Exactly. You're one of a kind almost.
So you have a Casimir, and what's the
and
other
my
one?
oldest name is Riker. So
Riker.
That's where the KER comes from.
Both
yeah.
are unique names.
Yep.
And there you go. Now you got your Casker Creative.
Yep. And
how old are they now?
10 is Riker's 10 and Casimir is 7.
Okay.
Yep. My thought there.
You got your hands full out like we do.
Oh yeah. I figured if I name it after my kids, there was absolutely no way I could quit.
Yeah. And then it's a cool story to tell them too when there's a day where they might even want to get into the business. Who knows?
They already do. And they're very happy about
That's neat.
Yeah. Oh, they know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what year again did you start the company?
Okay.
I know you had another job at the same time, but you were starting it kind of part-time at first,
It was
right?
2017, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so did you know right away that your target was like wanting to work with real estate agents, or were you working with a bunch of different business owners at the time?
I mean, yeah, for most of that time, I was just kind of working with whoever, word of mouth, relationship based.
Right. Any business owner that needed help with branding.
Yeah. And there's always been a common theme of my entire career, like working with real estate agents, working with people in the real estate industry. So it's always been there. And so now it's just kind of become more of a focus.
Got it. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. Is most of your clients nowadays, would you say, in the real estate space?
About half.
Okay.
Yeah, about
Cool.
half.
And so when you work with an agent,
Yeah.
give us an example of like, what does that initial consultation kind of look like? What types of questions are important to you that you want to dig into with them? What are the common things that you think agents are asking for from you? What's been your experience there?
So most agents are going to ask you for the basics.
Videography, photography, listing photos.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's always just kind of usually how the conversation starts. But then the ones that are more serious about and aware of this notion of personal branding, that kind of initiates an entirely different conversation, because when you start talking about personal branding, as a creative, as a branding specialist, I understand that I actually cannot work with everybody. I have great advice for everybody, but when you start diving into the personalities, and it's me as the creative outside the box trying to think of how are we going to really capture your audience's attention with what you're doing, I can tell them what to say and I can give them the notion, but I can't necessarily make them understand it and deliver it. So when I'm trying to work with somebody who might not understand where I'm coming from, might not understand my perspective on something, then it's just going to misclick the whole time. So I'm finding that a lot of agents kind of have their idea of what they want to do, but I believe that there's ways to help all of them. For instance, and this is one of my favorite things lately, and I know everybody talks about AI, and a lot of people are like, get that AI out of here.
Right.
But there's ways to use it to help you as an agent that I think maybe people aren't thinking about. So some of the better content out there that I'm seeing from agents that's having more of an impact, getting more engagement, is the different stuff, right? So the one I like to talk about the most is Tampa Turf. I don't know if you've seen his videos. He's very irreverent, jokes about all the houses, very PG-13/R rated at times, but people love it. People engage with it.
What's his name?
Oh gosh,
Is that Chandler?
Chandler, yes.
It is, right?
Yes,
Yeah, 'cause
yes.
We had him on our on a panel once.
Yeah.
And he actually won our social media award at one of our awards banquets. That was not this past year, but the year before.
Yeah.
Chandler Thompson, right?
Right.
He's with
it's
Frank Albert Realty.
Yep, Frank Albert Realty. It's completely counterintuitive, and people love it.
Yep.
Right.
Totally.
And he's got to be doing banger business from it, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but that concept, taking that concept, and you can transport it to anything.
Yeah, he definitely has a USP, right? That's his way, his
big
style.
time.
You can definitely pick it up right away.
Right. So let's say, and I was just having this conversation last night with somebody who's trying to sort of merge his sort of spiritual yoga type stuff that he had been doing like all over the world. He's like, how could I merge that with being a realtor? And to me, it's like, and he's also involved with like some at-risk youth and like trying to figure out a way to bundle this all together. And I'm sitting here thinking like, if I was going to make his brand, his personal brand from scratch, I would say, get some of those outfits that you wore for all of your yoga and all of your meditation and stuff like that, which he has. Start wearing those with your real estate stuff, but also start kind of merging this notion of trying to help people in need, helping these youth in need, helping people who just got out of jail, helping them out, because that's part of his program. And if you can merge with video and tell that whole story of you're helping the community, you're different, you're a spiritual sort of person, you're going to connect with these people on sort of a different level, you're separating yourself from everybody else who's, dressed up in nice clothes and a nice smile.
He's going to attract a totally different type of client too.
Totally different.
And it's probably going to be the type of client he wants to attract.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So going outside of that norm and really embracing who you are and letting your why and your who just speak to everybody, I think is just going to, you'll find your way to stand out. And I'm sure that a lot of the people that you mentioned, it's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And whether they're somebody who's like a big sports person, and so they have built their network through, we've had agents on this show who have literally done almost all their business through like baseball, little league campaigns or softball or pickleball.
Right.
Some of the names now are escaping me, but we just had a guy on the show, maybe if you remember, Rob, where the agent was like built up his entire network through pickleball.
Wow.
Right? That's where a lot of his stuff started to build momentum.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that obviously. I forget now who it was. We had a conversation about it, I remember. But yeah, I mean, it's common, right?
Right.
Finding what that niche is. We've also had agents on here who like done amazing stuff serving like the senior living community, right? I think of that. I know we had an agent who does that in St. Pete not that long ago. And so you're totally on the money. I'm a huge proponent of what you preach, what you're about. That's like I said, I believe it so much. It's the very first principle that we're building our whole net community around, is helping people identify that. And then even coming up with like workshops and stuff to try to help them walk through it so that they can clarify it in their mind and ingrain it and really start to own it. Because that's the key too, is they have to be able to communicate it.
Right. And I'm gonna circle all the way back because I mentioned AI, but I didn't say why.
Yeah.
But like if you can just like spit out who you are to AI and ask them to give you back like what your USP might be, you could really cut to the chase.
Yeah.
And keep in mind that AI has eyes. There's no transition here, but AI has eyes. And so if you're in a house and if you're at a listing and you're out of ideas, you're like, well, how the heck am I going to make this entertaining or like, engagement worthy? Ask AI, get your phone out, take a picture and say, what can I say that matches my brand about this scene? AI is going to analyze that scene. They're going to look at all the things and be like, oh, look at that blue fridge. It really, based on your branding, what can you say about this blue fridge in this moment? So you can lean on technology outside yourself to help you iron out and like throw out ideas so quickly that you can just execute in the moment.
Yeah, that's great stuff for sure. I've been trying to educate myself more too on the different ways to utilize AI in general. But I love the prompts about like, act like this so-and-so expert or act like a branding expert. And it's almost like AI becomes this strategic thought partner that has the best ideas collected from the entire world at your disposal at any time, rather than just using it for like an email creator. Right?
Exactly. Oh yeah.
And really starting to view it more as a strategic thought partner. That's a huge. I heard a guy speak about that once at a conference, and it really opened my eyes to what's possible with it. So yeah, I love that you brought that up for sure. So when you, like I said, going back to when you hook up with an agent initially, and I think it makes a lot of sense that probably most of them, when they first meet you, are probably thinking, he's a videographer, he's a photographer, he can maybe help me create flyers and that kind of thing. But, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like where your secret sauce really lies is in your passions, I think, is in this concept of strategy, right? Like branding strategy, which is ultimately going to bring a lot more success if it's done right, for the agent than just creating some posters, flyers, or taking some pictures. Right. Yep. At the end of the day. Yep. Not that stuff's not important. Of course it is. But you got to make sure that strategy is all aligned with all that other stuff which comes later, right? In the process is that work. That's where I see most agents fail, is they don't do the work up front, right?
Yep. So the nice pictures and the nice videos are going to get you seen. Totally. But the brand is going to get you remembered.
That's a great point. And they all should be aligned, right? Because of that. So is there anything else you can elaborate on that you found that has worked really well for you in helping people identify that early on in that process? Is there a certain process that you put people through at all, or is it really just kind of organic conversation?
It has to be, yeah. Organic conversation, because I want to talk to somebody without any of the pressure or any of the acting or presenting or anything like that. I want to understand who they are, because like once you get down past the fancy suit and the fancy colors, as I wear myself, once you get down past that, you have to understand like where it's coming from. If they're going to be acting and like pretending all the time for their brand, that's not an authentic brand. I think most people are going to see right through it. Totally. I don't think people like to interact with fakers too much.
Right. Yeah. And even the person doing it's not going to want to do it that long.
Right. Yeah. It's going to get old to yourself.
Right. It won't feel genuine. I agree with that for sure. Yeah. So once you feel like, normally in your experience, is that like a single phone call to kind of work through this? Is it a much longer process? What does that usually look like for you?
It kind of depends on the size, because like I'm dealing with individuals at times and organizations at times. So an organization is going to take a little bit longer, but if I can have like a 2-hour conversation, and I'm always going to prefer to do it in person. Video is a nice backup, but I like to see the person. I like to have that real like engagement so that understanding can really happen, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. So most of the time, it sounds like when you do this, it is in person.
Yeah.
So
At least for the
does
initial.
that mean the
like,
majority of your clients are Tampa Bay based? It
oh
sounds
yeah,
like, right?
yeah.
Do you see yourself as wanting to work in other markets as well, or strictly Tampa Bay?
Yeah. I'm certainly open to it, especially as my business grows and my main service kind of expands. I can envision working outside of Florida, but I like the idea of building up the area that I'm in. I know
For sure.
that might be sort of a common thing for people to feel, but I feel it too. So I like being able to visit people. I like being able to hang out with people and interact with them. So, and just building up the Bay better.
Is there anything you feel like that's unique about your approach when you work with a real estate agent as compared to another business owner?
Yeah, I mean, it's a personal brand versus corporate brand.
Okay.
So personal brand, it's kind of the same thing in a lot of ways, but a corporate brand, it doesn't have a personhood. You just have to build that personhood, which is an interesting process. So the personal brand comes with who they are. So then you have to accept who they are, and you can't try to like craft them into something else. Just enhance who they already are and make that USP really shine out in their personality and everything that they're doing.
Yeah, I love that. And sometimes, in real estate too, you have teams, right?
Mhm,
So I'm assuming part of that is also like, what do you want your team brand to
mhm,
be?
mhm.
Because, some of the people we feature are really focused on their team brands and
Yeah.
and being a team leader, and they want to recruit agents as well. So it's about identifying the branding messaging first so that you're recruiting the right people, right? I
Right.
think about even the office we're in right now, Jason McIntosh. He's one of the guys I think has done a really good job of. You could tell from this office, he branded himself as like a hardcore patriotic. He's a supporter of the veteran community,
Mm-hmm.
and he recruits a lot of people who resonate,
Yeah.
with that type of concept
Mhm.
of loud and proud and bold about the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a brand
Yep.
in and of itself, and not being bashful about it, and understanding what you can really get behind that you're going to feel excited about.
And that's immersing yourself into a feeder community.
Yeah.
Because he took what he was passionate about, the stars and bars, and he got involved in that community, and that community recognizes him, and that resonates with them. So like whatever your main interest might be, it might be a church thing, it might be what you were talking about, sports stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, it could be anything. But if like the more you can immerse yourself into a community, the better off you are.
Yeah, totally. Like you said, I mean, even yoga, that whole
Sure.
fitness world,
Yeah.
you name it. I mean, there's literally a community for everything. It feels like nowadays, alternative lifestyles, right? We've had people on here where most of their business comes from the LGBTQ community, right?
Right.
That there's just, you got to find that niche. You
Mhm.
got to have a passion, I think, about serving it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to make sure your messaging is heard from as many people as possible within that niche,
Mhm.
right? And you really, the goal is to be that big fish in the small pond,
Exactly.
and grow from there. Once you feel like you have had some breakthroughs in that area, right, with your client,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously we're talking mostly about real estate agents here, but this could obviously apply to any business owner, because we also have partners, of course, that watch our show and get involved. Yep. So when you think about your process or checklist, if you have one, where do you want to guide them to next? Are there specific marketing strategies that you feel like are kind of a staple of your offer or your platform? Is it all just on what they want to do? How do you go about what you think the best thing might be for that person?
So the best way to think about it is, because there's no like copy paste solutions. I mean, there's plenty of solutions that we'll use multiple times for whoever.
Sure.
But like the step one of that understanding process is figuring out what they've done so far, what's worked, what's their desired state, what's their current state. Mm-hmm. So it's like if you see that these things have worked over time, then you just keep focusing on those. But if not, then we need to start figuring out what your strategy is going to be. So I'm starting to get lost in my own thoughts here.
It's all right.
The premise
Get
here
lost.
was
It's all good.
No. So
I'll reel you back in, man. It's all good. Don't worry.
I appreciate it. There's a lot swimming around in there. So.
So you were talking about the idea of kind of your process, right? So we've obviously spent a lot of time already talking about the importance of the brand, and clarifying ways that you're going to want to get them to identify that brand.
Right.
So I was kind of curious because most agents want something tangible. I'm assuming eventually that they're coming to you for, whether that's a direct mail campaign or like a videography campaign or a social media campaign or whatever, right? It might be to be able to really take that brand and get it out, right, to the world or to their, at least to their niche that we identified. So I was just curious if you had a track record on any specific type of service that you think has been a go-to for you, specifically with real estate agents, or if it's all over the map, and that's fine too.
So the solution can be a matter of finding out what the core problem is, like the biggest issue that you're facing, maybe ironing that issue out, or trying something new. I think that these days video content, like we all have our little rectangles.
Sure, video content is king. Yeah.
It really is, more than anything, and it doesn't have to be highly produced, but if you can at least. Sometimes
I'm hanging out with two professional videographers in this studio today.
If Rob is involved, it needs to be highly produced and highly paid for.
Everything Rob does is highly produced.
Exactly. So, but there's ways there has to be like a happy medium though, because you need to post video content regularly.
Right.
People need to keep seeing you all the time. It doesn't have to be highly produced, but it helps.
Well, in all reality, honestly, a lot of the stuff that looks like it's your next door neighbor took a phone out and took a thing actually seems to
it's more relatable.
Get the best results sometimes.
It's more relatable
how it works.
Yeah,
but I think there's a purpose behind every piece of content.
Yeah,
right. And some of it should just look kind of. I took my phone out and I want to say something.
Right.
Versus like Rob does a great job of creating like commercials basically for brands and helping them build out things. He's done that with some agents and whatnot, and so that's not something you're going to take a phone out and do, right? Like you want some stuff happening, editing, and texting, and all kinds of things to make it look right. That's a whole different animal and a whole different world.
Right. So then if we're going to do like a sort of like a solution for most people, that here's what it would be. It would be make videos consistently. They don't have to be highly produced. But honestly, please do not just like think of your audience first and foremost. So if you're presenting them with a video, don't just get on there and be like, hi, here at, Mortgage Solutions, we do all these great things. Like nobody's going to pay.
Wants to hear your
Nobody
services.
wants to hear your pitch.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to sit through a pitch. So give them something. And this is something that most of us know, give them something of value or entertain them or something like that. But just think of that first and foremost. Like what is going to compel my audience to stay? And it's probably not going to be words at all. It might be how you're doing it.
Yeah.
A lot of people say like if you're walking in your video, that's always going to be more interesting. Is because like where's this person going? What's going on here? So like something as simple as that can make your content.
Chandler does great because it's all about comedy for him.
It's huge comedy, and people look forward to it, right? Because they know that he's going to be ridiculous and hilarious.
Absolutely.
So.
Suzanne Powers comes to mind for me when you talk about just consistently taking the rectangle out that you called it.
Right. Yeah.
To a video.
Yeah.
I get 2 or 3 posts from her every single day on my Facebook.
Wow.
And it's either a photo of a listing that she's working through, or it's a video of the steps that she's doing to prepare that listing for sale.
Yep.
That's huge.
That's a great point too. Like just videoing the process is content too.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Working out loud.
Yeah.
Right. That's what people say.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much. It's still true to this day that we're all in our heads about how comfortable we are with being on video all the time, right? Content. And we keep hearing it and it's preached constantly. And still so many people have a hard time getting over that fear internally of everything's got to be perfect for them to actually create a video. And what you see with the most successful people, it's the exact opposite, right?
Yep.
They're just putting content out. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, but it's genuine and it's real. And it's authentic, and they're just literally living out loud in the world that is crazy busy, and it's hard to get attention, right? So we gotta figure out different ways to try stuff to make that work.
I'm not immune to that either.
Yeah,
it's been a huge issue for me. I didn't want to get out in front of the camera or go out and meet people.
I can relate, no doubt. And I'm in the camera a decent amount, but I'm not nearly as much as I probably should be myself, right? And just having that be more of a regular thing. It's funny though, you mentioned leading with value too, because you're so aligned with I talked earlier about the principles that we're building the community with. So you literally mentioned the first one earlier, and now the second one as well, which is what we call creating. We're kind of branding it as VLOs. What that stands for is value leading offers, right? So it's this idea of how can you create offers that many times are free, but they add immense value,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to make people look at you, raise their hand, and say, I want to follow this person,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want to learn more from this person. I want to get that report that they're offering. I want to get this that they're giving me. I want to at least subscribe to their newsletter, like whatever it is. But figuring out a way that you can distinguish yourself with value first, not sales pitch or sales copy, because you need to build that attraction through value.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then it all kind of stems from there. That's what eventually leads to the next phase, which is the marketing arsenal, is our third principle. What we call crushing your marketing arsenal once the first two things have been done right. And then ultimately, fourth one is about establishing what we call automation, which is all about lifestyle, right? How do you create the business to operate so that you can literally tap into AI and other forms of automation to have things run while you sleep, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So those four principles I know are what you believe in. It's what you do with your clients in many ways. In your experience, Trevor, in working with agents, do you find any common hiccups or hang-ups that they bring to the table that you have found as anything that's happened more than once to you, where you're like, this is a common pattern now? I can see people getting stumbled on this point for whatever reason, or this part of our conversation. Does anything come to mind there?
A couple things. People keep getting in their own way, and I know that I've been historically guilty of the same thing. But people get in their own way. They get in their own heads. They think I think there might be some imposter syndrome, or just afraid to act like, crazy and genuine, and like act like their relaxed selves. And so they're always kind of like uptight about it, or not being organic with kind of how they're trying to create their content. And another one is, if you're working with somebody like myself, if you're working with somebody with an agency or creative and video experience, and please, before you try to do a piece of like home tour content or anything like that, and if you have a concept, iron it out ahead of time. Storyboards help if you really want to get into it, but like at least communicating ahead of time what your concept is, and making sure that you and the videographer are on the same page. Because if you have this idea and the person's trying to film it and they're not on that same page, then like they're going to go home with cuts that might not look like what you're trying to achieve.
Sure.
And they might not even be able to create your vision because they didn't understand it because you didn't talk about it.
And that's also in many ways why, like, you could correct me if I'm wrong here too, but the concept is there's a difference between a videographer and a content strategist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they can be one and the same, and hopefully the best videographers are that, so that they can have those educated conversations. But I've also known videographers where they'll just do video, right? But they're not really like sharing ideas and suggestions and talking about strategies and things that with an eye to try to really enhance the message. They're just there to shoot the video, right? So again, that, just like anything else, you tend to get what you pay for a lot of times. And so I would encourage people to be thinking about, and they could be two different people as well. Like you can work with somebody potentially like yourself who I would kind of position you as a brand specialist, a content strategist.
Right.
Yes, you can do video too.
Yeah.
But maybe they have a videographer that they love, but they really don't get that content strategy side from that videographer. Right.
Exactly.
So that's where somebody like you can come into play, and helping, bridge that gap.
Yeah. And for brokerages, you kind of touched on my current offering with the fractional chief marketing officer thing, where our lowest tier of service is basically advising and saying, here's figuring out who they are, getting that understanding of their brand, and then saying, well, based on who you are and based on what you're trying to achieve, I think that if we started implementing a strategy like this to really highlight this, and this about you and focus on that USP, then your content should probably look a little bit like this. So when you're talking to your videographer, start talking about this and shooting in this direction to kind of really make yourself stand out.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, because just like anything else, like great athletes have good coaches before they just go out and start swinging the bat 1,000 times, right? Or else it's going to be a longer process than not. So
Exactly.
You can have a great videographer on your team, and if you're not actually planning out that strategy in advance, you could just be swinging the bat and hoping for the best.
Swing for the fences, but good luck with that.
Yeah, no, the strategy's key. Couple things. So we'll switch gears a little bit with as we run short on time, but I've enjoyed our conversation so far. Just to get people to know you a little bit more. So obviously you've been in Tampa now for a little while. You have kids you mentioned earlier. What do you guys love to do for fun when you're just hanging out?
Oh man. Sometimes those arcades show up. I try to keep them out of the arcades. Try to keep them off the video games. There's an amazing park. Maybe you'll know what it is when I talk about it. There's this amazing park off toward Brandon that has like all these trees coming out of the ground with like these huge roots and everything. Have you been there?
I've been to one that's similar, not in Brandon though. It's over in in Pinellas County.
Oh, okay.
Same thing. Gorgeous trees with low hanging with long root. We actually had a photo shoot there one time.
Oh, nice.
But it was out in like the Palm Harbor area.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of neat when you can find those types of parks that have
that, especially in Florida, because it's like,
some unique
where'd
trees.
You come from? Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like to take them outside and make them
So you're
sweat.
a nature guy?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Get outside. Not too much screen time.
Yeah, no doubt. We try to do that hard with our kids, keep them away from the screens as much as possible.
Yeah.
It's crazy. My daughter just turned 11 and her friends all have phones already. I'm like,
oh my gosh, no,
this is
stop.
insane.
No, it's too soon.
I'm like, don't even
it.
ask me until you turn 18.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
that'll be a long fight, I know.
Oh my gosh, good luck with all that. Come on. No, there's
no reason why you need a phone at 11.
Right. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's insane. But then, not only that, but then they want to kind of use your phone sometimes too, right?
Oh, yeah.
And check out all that. So, couple rapid fire questions.
Sure.
Number one, do you have any favorite books, authors, seminars maybe that you've attended that you feel like have made an impact on you personally or professionally?
I would say the latest one that really struck me was The Creative Act by Rick Rubin.
Oh, that's cool.
Very thick book, but very good, especially for somebody like me where it's like, with what I do, there comes this like deep obsession with perfection. Because it's like the things that most normal brained humans don't think about, I'm over here thinking about. Like I'm looking at Top Producers Nation. I'm thinking about all the spacing between each single letter, you know? So like,
you're probably like, man, this logo sucks.
No.
It's time to fix this thing up here.
There's some things going on, but we can talk about that later. But like I have to think about all these insane level of details with everything. Which
is interesting though, really, because what I think most of us take for granted is the impact that even the little things have on psychology.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you think about how long a brand like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, McDonald's have been around, Apple, and there's so much psychology behind the brands. And when they make even just little shifts to a brand, to a logo, to a commercial campaign, any of that stuff.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much psychology behind it, right? And the average consumer isn't thinking through that process. They don't even realize technically what's happening to them, but there's like people who have thought through this in detail and understand that if we make this change, this is the way that it's going to change the feeling, right, about the brand, about us,
right,
even subconsciously. That stuff is always kind of interesting to me.
And we have the benefit now of in 2025 having 100 plus years of admin and people in the marketing world figuring out all these things, establishing norms and establishing things that we're expecting.
Yep.
So like for very simple instance, a button on a website. What is the verbiage of that button? We found out, we've been doing this web thing for all these years. Like if you're saying click here to subscribe on your button, why are all those words there?
Yeah.
As humans, we've come to understand what a button is and what it's going to do. So all you really need is that word subscribe.
Yeah. And where is the button? And what color is the button?
Exactly.
And what shape is the button?
And what happens once you push it?
Yeah.
Is it what you expected?
And all that stuff matters too. If you
Every single thing matters.
Because it's all tested. And you can figure out, hey, if it's green, this is the result. If it's red, this is the result, right?
And now you're dealing with people's trust.
Yep.
So like if something that they're interacting with your brand is not happening the way they expect, then they're like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
It's things that you might not even think about. It's crazy.
There is a whole psychology component that so many people just take for granted to the littlest things. And that's why, again, really important to have an expert that you can bounce ideas off of and test different things. It really is about testing too.
Oh yeah.
Because you might think something works for one agent as an example, and then even another agent might not get the same exact result from the same type of campaign,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so there is a testing with every single situation that has to take place, and you're constantly optimizing
Mm-hmm.
to figure out what really could work for that person, right?
Right. Do A/B testing. Do A/B testing.
Yeah.
Figure out what
that's
works.
key.
Yep.
Absolutely. Got a favorite movie or TV show?
Oh boy. How weird is it? I've been watching like Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Are you? You're a Trekkie, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I can never say I'm a big Star Wars fan.
Same, actually.
Love Star Wars.
On both sides, yeah.
But I've never really got into Star Trek.
Yeah.
Never really did. No.
It's very
My
diplomatic.
boys are into Star Wars now, though, too. They love it. They love
Oh
it.
yeah. Irresistible.
My youngest son scares me, though. He's a Darth Vader fan. He's got the evil, got the Sith side to him sometimes.
Oh boy. We all do on occasion, don't we? You know.
Okay, so I'm going to we'll switch gears to this one here, which I call our legacy question.
Okay.
Right? And years from now, hopefully many, many years from now, when you think about you're sitting on that rocking chair and you're thinking about what you'd want to be most remembered for. I find this question fascinating, especially for you as a branding expert.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think would be most important to you for your own brand
Mm-hmm.
that you would want people to remember you by, personally or professionally?
Oh, I want to be disruptive. I want to be disruptive. I want to work with some brands that are willing to take some big risks and do some things that are a little bit outside the box. My satisfaction comes from taking charge of a brand, elevating it on every single level, and then just watching it shine and grow from there. So like having a list of those one day when I'm sitting on a beach enjoying my whole life, that's what I'm all about.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. That's not an answer that we've heard, I don't think, from anybody else so far. So
Yeah.
I love it. Very cool. If somebody wanted to pick your brain, Trevor, I think we hopefully stimulated a lot of thoughts today about things to think about, things to ask about.
Mm-hmm.
Not your typical, hey, I want you to shoot this house as a listing photos. Not that that's not important.
That's baseline.
But let's think about how to elevate the strategy, right?
Right.
And the brand. What's the best way for someone to reach you?
You can go to CaskerCreative.com or Trevor@CaskerCreative.com is my email.
Cool. And obviously, you can also find Trevor on Tampa Bay Real Producers website. Just go to our partners tab and you'll see him there.
Mm-hmm.
So you can follow up, of course, with him there too. And I'm sure we'll have Trevor too to talk more about some of our branding stuff in the future. We're going to put a bow the way we always do on the episode with a call to action to the audience. So whether you're watching live through Facebook, YouTube, you're listening in on the 15 plus different podcast platforms that we distribute to now. If you don't already subscribe, by the way, to the podcast, just click that button. That way you'll be notified every time we drop a new episode, which happens weekly. You want to make sure you're notified for those moving forward. But what is one thing that you can do today to take action on that's going to help propel you forward personally or professionally based on our conversation today with Trevor? Just pick one thing. That way the time that you invested in listening to this podcast is going to be worth it. And we're big believers that that action step is the most important thing here, or else a lot of the stuff you might have thought about or good ideas that you might have had while listening to this show really aren't going to, what's the word I'm looking for? Germinate? Is that a good word? That's a good word, right? I'll throw that word out there. Germinate unless you actually take action, right? Do something. And there's so many things we discuss. Maybe you just have to have a conversation with a branding expert, somebody you already know, or someone like Trevor. Maybe you need to figure out, you know what? I have to do more testing, right, on my own stuff. I got to figure out why isn't this being optimized, or is it even being optimized? You might not even know what your analytics are. And that might be another thing that you can figure out on your website, your social media. Maybe you just need to simply pick up your phone and record a video, right? Start a habit there, whether it's 1 a day, 2 a day, whatever that might be. So many different things that we touched on that you can choose. What's one that you're going to take action on? And if you do that, you're going to take a big step in the right direction. Check us out, of course, at topproducersnation.com to learn more about the online community that you can join for free right now. We have a ton of resources already for you to lead with value, and so we practice what we preach and give you some things there that you can learn from regarding other top producers. There's also some paid courses, and there's other consulting in there too, that if you wanted to get more from us, you could go ahead and dive down that. We look forward to working with you on that as well. And there's much, much more to come too with the Top Producers Nation community. We're pretty excited about that for 2025 and beyond. So we will see you on the next episode of the Top Producers Nation podcast. We'll see you there.